but the option is there to start with the features writing module if you prefer. So I just thought I'd stick that in, since I'm baffled about the shorthand.
Yeah, but I'm thinking there's a lot of short forms in T-line, aren't there? That's peculiar to the English language.
Absolutely.
You know? So
yes, the very short abbreviations for common phrases and so on would differ, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I think Granville's got a very specific query about your website, Nick.
Right. Okay. Has he written down this question?
Yeah, he says you use your website to market yourself and your work. Have you found it a useful marketing tool? And have you any observation about what has made it effective?
Yeah, I think so. If you're pitching for work, or if you have a story idea that you want to pitch to a newspaper and a magazine, they don't know you, for example. I mean, they quite often want to know something about you, what you've written, whether you've got a track record. And it's very easy just to say, click on this link to my website and you can view some of my recently published articles. And so from that point of view, yes, it is very, very useful. Whereas years and years ago, I'm talking a long time ago now, you'd perhaps have to photocopy some of your articles and maybe send them through the post to somebody. But with a website, it's instantaneous. You can just give them the link and say, right, yeah, you can check my work out. Just click on this, and within an instant, they're there. And then they can make a decision fairly quickly, and they might get back to you, say, within the hour and say, yes, we think your idea is good, and we know that you can write because we've seen all your previous articles. And so from that point of view, it has been very effective, very useful. And of course, it hasn't really cost me anything, because I found one of these, idiot guides to do your own website, and I wasn't really looking for anything with lots of bells and whistles on it. I just wanted a bog standard sort of template that I could upload my articles to, and that's what I found. And I've added things to it. I've taken things away. And I think for any budding freelance, provided you start to build up your portfolio, it doesn't have to be with paid work, but anything that you've had published, whether that be in print or on the internet, it's something that you should keep and consider uploading onto your own website, and you can build things up, and it's a very effective marketing tool. Yes.
I think the only caveat I'd add to that, Nick, was that obviously if you are using it to market your writing abilities, it makes sense to make sure that you're quite selective, especially if you're blogging and so on, about what you are directing people to. I mean, obviously, ideally, this should be a sort of well-crafted, properly spelt, interesting sort of piece. So it's obviously counterproductive if you're directing a would-be employer or a commissioner of your work to a piece of work that really isn't top flight. And the only problem with the web is that you can get stuff published that's not necessarily particularly well edited or vetted, and that could be counterproductive. So I'd just be sure that the quality of what you're submitting online, just be very careful about things like spelling and so on, which editors are obviously concerned about. Sorry.
No, I just to add that I agree entirely with that, and everything I've got on my website is very carefully selected. I think most of it, or the majority of it, has been stuff that I've had in the nationals, which obviously I want people to see. But it's all stuff that I've been particularly proud of, if you like, and have been something of an achievement. So the website address is nickrobertsalati.com. As simple as that. I think my name is on the podium at the front. I'm looking at this from the back, so I can't see what you're seeing, but It's nickrobertsalati.com. Yeah.
And in answer to Steinway's point about spelling errors on local papers, it's a big issue at the moment, especially in the current sort of downturn in all industries, that papers are being pared sort of to the bone, and that there are a lot of complaints from working journalists about the time that they've got to edit, to put papers together. I mean, basically pages are being thrown together. There's very little time for adequate sort of proofreading and correction of the type that I think readers deserve. But then that's something that tends to be a cyclical thing. Obviously, readers do eventually get fed up with inaccuracies and make their voices felt. So hopefully there are times when different editors regard that as being a top priority, and hiring people who, you know, the more accurately they write to start with, and, you know, having a good team of sub-editors is still an important thing, because, as Steinway says, there's nothing worse than picking up your local paper and seeing it littered with errors.
Yes, I've certainly seen a lot of errors recently on in news, particularly the Independent. I don't know whether that's because they've made a whole load of people redundant, but yeah, that's becoming all too common, worryingly, and a lot of them seem to be fairly basic errors as well. And I think if you have worked as a sub, you tend to spot these a mile off. But you know, I'd like to big up subs if I can, because I think they do a very important job, and you know, they're the kind of unsung heroes, if you like, of a newspaper, because, you know, they can turn stories around, come up with these very clever headlines, and they're very rarely credited. You know, they don't get bylines or anything like that, but they do a great job.
The bonus of that as well, Nick, for some of our students, is that not only a minority, but it does mean that if there's one person in a class, and it's probably the case that on attendance courses there will only be one person who is very, very good at the basics, you know, the punctuation, spelling, and so on, that there are career opportunities in production journalism, even at, you know, in the old days it was, the tendency was to train as a reporter and then move across to subs, but we've had in recent years, you know, people going straight into production journalism, sometimes slightly better paid, especially if it's sort of like the magazine field or specialist magazine work. And I can think of a couple of students from the last year who have been able to get employment there. So it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm fully with Nick about the unsung heroes behind the scenes. Not everyone wants to be stuck at a desk. A lot of people want to be out doing the interviews and reporting. But if it's something that you discover during the course that you are good at and that you do enjoy, and that you're perhaps, you know, good at writing headlines, interested in layout and so on, there are other career opportunities there too.
They're called the last line of defence, aren't they? Well, we used to call them the dark side.
Yes,
on the newspaper I worked today. Yeah.
Vesuvius. Do you want to answer the Vesuvius one? Yeah.
The general trend that many staff writers are being replaced by freelancers. I think it might be the other way around in some respects. I think it is very difficult at the moment for freelancers, because staff writers are being told to do more in terms of writing. So, but on the other hand, I did read the other day that one of the national papers was going to subcontract its sub-editing out to Australia, to freelancers in Australia, which is quite interesting. But